Just checking. Okay, everyone, let's go. Top page 5. We started last class discussing the breath of life, the living soul, the neshama. We're now going to look at the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, and his words and commentary. There it is. The Ramchal, who lived in Italy hundreds of years ago, is going to give us more of an examination into the nature of the soul, the neshama. Okay? Let's jump straight in. Please follow. We'll do Hebrew and English. Please follow inside. He says the following. Note 2. Gezeira Chachma Eliona. The highest wisdom. That's one of the references to God. Shi'adam murkav mishnei hafachim. That a person is actually made up of two opposites. Two opposites. We are living contradictions, says the Ramchal. What are those? Minashama sichlit v'zacha, a pure and intelligent soul, v'guf artzi v'akor, and an unenlightened and physical body.
That's why I thought I was in the wrong class. I'm sorry.
Shani, save me, darling, save me. Okay. Two opposites, one pure spiritual neshama, the other the enlightened and physical body. Says the Ramchal, Dahainu haguf l'chumriyut v'neshama l'sichliyut shekol achad mehem yita b'teva l'tzido. Each one is going to go towards its teva. Each one is going to go towards its teva. That's its nature. That's its nature. Now the word teva, did we mention this word last class? Sorry. Teva, so we translate it as nature, but what does the word actually mean? You get used to my style. Every Hebrew word has a real shorish, real meaning. It's going to reveal something about it. So before it was a sandal or an Israeli pharmaceutical company, the word teva meant something else. Teva, yeah. Potential. I've never heard it translated as potential. It could be. I've never heard it as potential.
Oh, that's wrong.
Close. Noch is referred to it as, right? Teva means to sink. Up here, to sink in, right? Noch's teva, right? Sank in. So it's to sink. Right? To be submerged maybe is a better translation. What else? There's an object that is referred to as a matbeya, same shorish. What's a matbeya? We don't use that word nowadays too much, but it's a coin, yeah, a coin. Why will the word for nature be this word as word to sink and submerge and coin? Well, the natural world is something you can sink into and think this is the only world that exists. But the physical world is a mask, okay? The natural world, as we say, is a mask that masks God in this world. The other is a matbeya, because a coin is defined by the print that's on it, the embossing that's on it. And this world, the physical world, is an imprint of the spiritual world. One is a replication of the other world. That's the word teva. Okay, so referred to as nature, the natural world. They each have a nature. You can sink into both. You can sink into the physical world or into the spiritual world. Okay, so there is this battle between the guf and the neshama. I mentioned those last class, right? The guf and the neshama. And both of these are fighting it out. One is pure and spiritual from God, that's the soul, we said, and the other is physical and chumriyut, and that's from the earth. Then he says, here's the bad news. V'timsa b'nei milchama. We have a battle, a milchama. There is a battle that these two yetzers, these two inclinations, are having one with the other. Ba'ofen shim tikva neshama. If the soul wins that battle, titalehi v'taleh guf ima. the soul gets uplifted, the nature of the battle will see. But just for now, there's a battle. And if the soul wins this battle, the desires of the soul, more spiritual desires, it lifts itself up and it takes the body with it. That's important. The soul has the ability to refine the physical and to lift up the physical as well. V'yeh oto ha'adam, and a person, ha'mishtalem b'shleimet ha'mutad, and the person will attain perfection by the soul winning over. Ve'im yaniach adam, however, if the physical wins over, if your body's desires win over that of the spiritual, over the soul, the body is brought down, and the soul is brought down with it. So the two are connected. The two are connected. You have the housing, which is the guf, and inside the guf, actually in various places we will see in future classes of the guf of the body, the soul is placed. Part of it's put in the brain, part of it in the kidney, possibly the heart as well, and in the blood, and the soul is held. The analogy that is given is which we don't really have too much nowadays, but you'll still get it, is a horse and its rider. The horse and its rider. And the horse is the body in the analogy, in the mashal, and the rider is the soul. And the two are working together in tandem. But it is the rider's job, the soul, to win over the horse and to control it. Because if the rider doesn't win over the horse, what's going to happen? The horse is going to ride the rider if he wants and flick him off at some point. We don't want that, do we? So the job of the soul, the rider, is to control the horse. But the soul, the rider, needs the horse or it can't get around. Right? Both are needed. Is a horse evil? No. It's just doing its job. What does it do? It's physical, it eats, and it just rides around. Yeah? Takes care of its physical needs. The job of the rider is to control the horse. That is the metaphor that is used by Chazal to represent this battle of body and neshama. The rider is used a lot in Kabbalah, the rider and the horse. The two need each other, but if the rider is in control of the horse, he's in big trouble. But it needs the horse. The horse is not a bad thing. The Yetzar is not an evil thing, right? The physical. It's needed. It needs to be controlled. And that really, as we'll see, is our entire job in this world. Okay? He says, however, if a person just gives into all his physical desires and neglects the neshama, he says, that's good. Yeah, Adam bilti hagun l'shleimut. This person does not reach perfection. And what's going to be left from him? This person who's not able to subjugate the physical to his soul perfection will not reach perfection. If he does, he'll be able to reach perfection. We're on page 5, halfway down.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you say that the body is going with us, then how in Gilgul Neshama we say like the Neshama Moshe is acting a different person? So
That is a very good question. I'm going to leave that answer if you believe in reincarnation, which you don't have to.
when Judaism will be said.
It is spoken, it's tricky.
That's not.
When we get to reincarnation, we'll discuss it. It is discussed among many of the Kabbalists. However, we'll see it is pretty much the only thing we're going to learn this semester that you don't actually have to believe in if you don't want to. The Rambam does not speak about it. Rabbi Gaon didn't believe in it. Therefore, if you don't want to believe in it, it is not a principle of our faith. This, what we're discussing right now, is a principle of our faith. There's a soul, a neshama, there is schar, va'onesh, there's punishment and reward for the right decision. The wrong decisions you're punishable. That is a principle. Reincarnation is not a principle of our faith. We're going to do 2 classes of reincarnation, so we're going to get, I want to hold on to it.
Is this discussed in the Torah?
No.
And like this topic of Neshama and physical body?
Yes, we'll
In
see.
the Torah,
Yes,
like
yes,
God?
yes, yes, yes,
It's
yes.
completely up to you.
Yes, yes. What's up to you?
Reincarnation is like your.
We're going to get there.
choice.
It's your decision if you want to believe. You don't have to believe it. It's optional.
Oh, I thought it was like your choice if you get reincarnated. I was
No,
like,
no, 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 no.
Why go
Your choice in terms of if you want to believe in it. But we're going to get there. I'm going to do classes on this. Okay. Va'amnam. However, 3rd paragraph down, page 5. Gazar Tuveis Brach, Hashem decided in His goodness, we're assuming here that the whole game, if you will, that is set up called this world, is set up because it's good for us. It's for our good, and it's there to help us. God wants us to win this game, right? There's going to have to be a milchama, a war, a struggle, in order to achieve greatness. And we mentioned that we humans are the only creatures of Olam Hazeh, this world, that are given a neshama. Therefore, we're the only ones that have this struggle. Animals do not. Thereby, we're the only ones that get to Olam Haba, as we'll see in a second. Animals do not go to Olam Haba because they don't have this struggle. They act on instinct, and it's all chumriyat. It's all physical. They don't go through moral dilemmas. They don't work on self-improvement or the like. God decided that this battle, this hishtadlut, this effort does not last forever. It is not an eternal battle. It's only the battle of Olam Hazeh, this present world. It's not a battle, as we'll see when we get to Mashiach in later classes, of Olam Haba, and after, specifically, Tchiyat HaMetim, where the battle is going to change. This battle of Neshama and Guf only exists in the present world in order for us to reach perfection through our personal struggles. Okay? Getting up in the morning, not getting up in the morning. Praying, not praying. Cursing a friend out or being nice to a friend. These are examples of millions that we all go through, which only exist in Olam Hazeh. That's what he's about to say. This battle has a limit. There's a limit to the effort the person is required to expend in this battle. Okay? Because when a person achieves their effort, they do it. The reward for your effort is eternal. The reward for your effort is eternal, meaning it goes into Olam Haba. Okay? And that is why there are 2 times, this is very important, I'd write this down. There are 2 times that we are involved in this Guf Neshama battle. And I'll use the wording that he uses. Okay? He calls it Zman HaAvodah. Okay? That's Olam Hazeh, as we refer to it as. And there is Zman, or I guess what he refers, let's use his wording just to get it exact. Kibul Schar. Kibul Schar. The time, Zman, of Kibul Schar, of receiving reward. So there is the Zman of Havodah, and there is Zman of Kibul Schar. And that is Olam Haba. Okay? That is the future world. Now, we haven't defined what this is yet. We're going to see there are 3 definitions of Olam Haba, and we're going to get to each and every one of them. But for now, we're going to lump those 3 together and refer to it collectively as Olam Haba, which is the future world. Okay, sometimes referred to as the next world, but it's not really the best interpretation. Olam Hazeh is the present world, and Olam Haba is the future world. Okay? You don't have to write it down right now because when we go deep, we're going to double click on Olam Haba, but it's referring to where the soul goes to after a person dies, referring to Yom HaMashiach and Tchiyat HaMetim. So Olam Haba is a go-to term for all 3, as we're going to see. And we're going to go into each and every one of those in a lot more detail, specifically the Mashiach aspect of it. That's going to be the turning point from Olam Hazeh into Olam Haba. Yes, Jordan?
Sorry, so I'm a bit confused, just for
Great.
clarification.
Please.
You said there are 2 times that our group and Neshama will battle, and it's in this world and the
No.
world to come?
No, we said. No problem. Don't apologize. Please, you ask. If you have that question, there's at least 10 people who do as well. We said there is a battle. There is a milchama between guf and neshama. That's what the Ramchal is saying. Okay? The guf, we said, is the physical, and that draws to all the full physical desires, like the horse. Not bad. It's needed. You've got to get around in this world. You've got to eat, you've got to drink. Without it, the neshama dies. Okay? Which is why we're going to spend a bit of the semester talking about food. Because that's going to be intrinsically linked to this. Isn't it? Because without food, the neshama and the guf separate. But God puts implants inside the guf and the neshama. This battle is a temporary battle. Where does that battle happen? Only here, in Olam Hazeh, in this world. Zman ha'avodah. The Zman of work. The Zman of work. Are we clear? The results of that battle will have eternal implications in Olam Haba. What's Olam Haba? It's going to refer to where the soul goes to when a person dies, which is actually Olam HaNeshamot, actually, or Gan Eden is actually what that refers to. Don't worry about that, we'll get to that later. Yomot HaMashiach, days of Mashiach, and Yomot Tchiyat HaMeitim. Are we all clear? They're all following the pattern over here. If you don't get this, we can't move on.
Yeah, but you said like twice the word involved in a war between body and
Only in Zman HaAvodah and Olam Hazeh. In Olam Haba, that battle will not exist.
Because we won't have our bodies.
That's the two times, Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba.
but we're not
You
involved.
said that we're not in a
We're not here yet. We're not here yet. We're only over here. So this battle of Gush and Shama only takes place here in Olam Hazeh. And that's where we are right now. Are you all alive?
So we're
Then
not-
right now there's a battle inside you.
so we're not
Alright?
involved.
Listen to Rabbi Hanchioff or tag friends on Facebook. That's the battle we all have, really, isn't it? Yes.
Quick question. So you said that the goat wants the physical need.
I can't hear you. You have to call it, speak up. You're so far
You
away.
said that the goat wants the physical need,
Yes.
right? Which makes sense.
Yes.
Right? But last class we said that goat is really nefesh, which is soul.
There is very, very good. Thank you. So we're going to get there. There is an element of soul that's inside that we share with animals. You're asking a great question. That is the level of the neshama called nefesh. We have that and animals have it. That's why animals have the lowest drive. We're going to see, we'll get there. I'm going to write it out for you. There's going to be a higher level of the soul called the neshama that we humans have that animals don't. And neshama is an aspect, a higher aspect, right, of soul, which is destined to go to Olam Haba. Okay? So nefesh is true. Even the nefesh exists. Okay? It's actually in the blood. We even locate it. Right? Nefesh. Adam hiya nefesh, the Torah says. The blood is the nefesh. It doesn't say blood is the neshama. Blood is the nefesh. Which is why you can't drink blood of an animal as a side point. You can't eat the nefesh anymore. We always drain the blood and salt and the rest of it. It's related to that as well. Okay?
Well, is Gehenna considered?
We'll get to Gehenna later on. Well, hopefully not actually go to Gehenna. We'll discuss Gehenna later on. Okay?
This is why we can donate blood. That's not part of our.
Yes, yes, yes. You can donate blood. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Interesting. In other regions you can't, but we do.
Other we
You
can
do.
do.
Absolutely you can. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so he says this is eternal netzach netzachem. This is a temporary thing. So Olam Hazeh is temporary, as we all know, because we live and then we die. It's part of nature. Whatever lives must die, as my grandmother used to say. This is the time of reading schar. So this is a principle of our faith. We've reached one of the main principles of our faith, and that is we are, as we'll see, punished for our aveirot, as we do teshuva, but we are also rewarded for our correct decisions. That is kibbul schar. The ultimate reward, as we'll see, is in olam haba, is in the future world. That is the place for ultimate reward. Are we rewarded in this world? So the interesting answer is, actually we're not. Schar mitzvot b'hai alma leika. There's actually no reward for mitzvah in this world. And by the way, if there was, you wouldn't want it in this world. Because the reward for our actions, as we'll see, are so great that receiving it in this world is really bad news. You're getting cents on the dollar. The real schar for the right decisions we make is in Olam Haba. Okay? Marvelous. More of that later on. We're still in the introduction. Let's do the bottom paragraph. For Olam! Here's the good news, ladies.
Wait, so that's the reason of Tzaddik B'Ra'ah and Hashem.
Possibly. One of them. Possibly one of them, yes. V'olam, midat hatov merubah. You should know that the trait of goodness is greater. If we're put into this world, and we're thrown into this guf, this body, right? And all the challenges that come with it, and all the difficulties, and all the getting a job, and paying bills, and having to get married, oh no. And all that dating you go through, oh no. It's got to be that God's on our side, because God wants us to win this battle. Therefore, says the Ramchal, the midah of Tov is greater than the one of Ra. Okay? The cards are stacked with us. Sheha'avoda yesh la zman mechukak. You see, God's nice. He's like, if I put you in this battle forever and ever and ever, we'd never win. You can't fight an eternal battle. Don't worry, he says. This world is much shorter than the future world. It's mechukak. There's a zman to it. There's a limit. There's a limit to this world. Okay? But the next world, the future world, is limitless, whatever that means. We can't even fathom the idea of infinity, but it is infinite. Right? However, this world is not. Thank goodness. Let's follow inside. Just like God decided in His great wisdom, He says the ultimate place of reward, on the other hand, is no limit, and the constant pleasure of netzach nitzachem, eternal pleasure, whatever you do in this world, we'll see, is what you achieve in the next world, as we'll see later on. The metaphor for this must exist in this world as well. Does anyone know what the metaphor? I'll give you a little help with this. Where we see a person works for a certain amount of time and then receives pleasure for their work. Even in this world, you can see a microcosm of this battle. You should be able to see it. Everyone think about it for a second. Hold on, Natanya, darling. Where can anyone see it? Where you put in your effort, and then you get to enjoy your effort. If God created the whole universe with this, it's got to be a representation of this. Tanya, I had that first. Shabbos. We're going to say Shabbat? Beautiful. Shabbos, we'll see, you work for 6 days, you do your milchama, you work, and then on the 7th day, you stop. The milchama is lessened. Olam Hazeh actually is called days of the week, Chol, and Shabbat is Me'en Olam Haba. We actually refer to it. Shabbat is going to be the prototype, the microcosm of Olam Haba, which is why we'll see that the Gemara says, whoever is Torach during the week gets to eat on Shabbat. Whoever works during the week gets to eat on Shabbat. That is a metaphor, as if to say, whoever works in Olam Hazeh gets to enjoy the schar in Olam Haba, which is eternal. Shabbat is the eternal day. Can everyone see that? 6 days of the week, 1 day of rest, 6,000 years, as we'll see, of world history. The 7,000th, the Shabbat, is when Olam Haba begins, if not before. I think we'll revisit that idea later on. The Maharal of Prague is going to investigate this 6 and 1 weekday to Shabbat and Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba later on. It is not a coincidence. Okay, marvelous. Turn over the page. Okay. Yes.
I don't get the same though that it's always linear.
He's saying in terms of the timing of it. Okay, it can't be this is an eternal battle. This milchama cannot go on forever, guf and neshama, and therefore 2 times are put on. Zman ha'avodah, or referred to as Olam Hazeh, as referred to, is a finite amount of time, as we'll see, a maximum of 6,000 years, as we shall see, or a person's life, 70, 80, hopefully 120 years. Okay? However, this time is eternal. So there's a lot more of this than there is of this. That's what he means. Okay? We good on that? Okay, let's go deep. Let's double click on this. Let's go deep. Please follow inside. This is crucial information for the rest of the semester. Page 6. V'ulam, however, kafi hitchalef zimanav. Striving in this world and earning reward in the world to come. Since the period of earning, that's Olam Hazeh, kach roi shitchalef mitziva v'shar mukara. We'll see that everything that happens in this world is appropriate for that particular world. everything that happens in those two worlds are appropriate for what those worlds are all about. He's going to explain. Okay, it's appropriate that everything that happens in a certain way. That a person is able you see, if this world that we're in right now, that we're all struggling to get through, waking up, dealing with our parents, bills, which are not through yet, it's coming, achievable specifically, it's coming. If that all occurs over here, and that's the object of the game, if you will, it must be that the world is set up to help us achieve everything we need to. It makes sense, right? If I tell you the goal is to score goals, I'll use soccer because I'm, British, right? But if the whole idea of this world is to score goals, it must be that the rules and the pitch, right, that's the field you play on, is set up for the playing and winning. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So he's saying everything about Olam Hazeh is set up for you to achieve what you need to in order to get into Olam Haba. That's common sense. Right. Actually, that's what he says. He says, I'm not telling you anything radical over. I'm just filling in those things which are obvious to you. That's actually how he begins this sefer. Right? This is all common sense. So the environment and all the experiences of Olam Hazeh, all of them are set up to help us achieve what we need to in order to get to Olam Haba. Now, that is on a personal level, but also on a macro, national, all people, right through history level as well. All of the events of history are leading us into Olam Haba. All of the events of history, I'll be more specific, are leading us to Yemot HaMashiach. Every event that happens. So it's true personally, but it's also true historically. It's all leading us to Yemot HaMashiach, to Mashiach coming. Okay? It's everything you need to in order to do. Pirush, what does that mean? Ki hine murcha shetimsa lo hamilchama shezachranu bein hasachar ben hachomer v'lo yeh davar sheyakev et hachomer mishlot lasot et shelo kfi ashiu arui lo. While a person is striving for perfection, which you said is the goal of this world, right? He must be in a setting containing elements necessary for such effort. Everything. The body you're given, the skills you have, on a personal level, and on a larger level, where you live, your country, the environment of everything that happens to you in this world, are all there to help you and us to achieve perfection for Olam Haba. It's got to be. Otherwise, what's the point? How can I reach perfection if the system... How can I tell you to build a building without giving you the tools and putting you in the right place to do it? Nachon? So Olam Hazeh is set up for this. You have to... The world must be seen in order to help you achieve this. And that's not easy. Because the word world is Olam. But what does the word Olam really mean? Hajjaf and his words. What does what does Ve'elam mean? Elamti is hidden. Hidden. Why, ladies, would the word for world be the same as the word for hidden? Same shorash. Same shoresh. Why would it be the same? Because God is hidden in this world. Right? You can't see the spiritual world. You can't see the neshama. It's hidden in the guf. The spiritual elements are hidden in Olam Hazeh. Our job is to pierce through the nature, the natural world that surrounds us, and to see the spiritual within it. So that's an avoda. That takes work. Right? You can't easily see everything that's in order to help to do this. If you could see it, then it wouldn't be a milchama. It'd be easy. If I could see God, if I could figure out my mission like that, then why would I be rewarded for my efforts? Because it's so easy. In order to be rewarded for your efforts, there must be a struggle. There's got to be two sides fighting. That's Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba. That's Guf and Neshama. Okay? So in this world, everything is hidden from us. And in the next world, it's hidden from us right now because we're not in Olam Haba. So there's a hiddenness to both. from our perspective. Make sense?
Who's in charge of like how strong is the struggle? Because like some people have like homeless people and like very, very poor people. And
Great,
some
great,
people-
great, great question.
I think
The short answer to that, I'm going to give you right now, but we'll go more to it later on, is everyone is given the struggle they need to achieve greatness. Everything about them. Rav Dessler says, your parents, your looks, your intelligence, the family you're born into is not coincidence, the country you're born into, the situations, the religious level, everything you have is put, on a personal level, put into play. Everything about you, right? Your hair or lack thereof, your nose, your intelligence, your eyes, your parents, where you're born, everything you go through in Olam Hazeh is beyond your control. Everything is set up for you to achieve greatness in order to reach Olam Haba. That's a personal level. He's talking on a bigger level. He's saying everything that happens in Olam Hazeh, all of world history is taking us there.
yeah, but why someone have
Great.
easier life?
Sadik Varela, we don't know. We don't know. A reincarnation will answer that potentially, but the ultimate answer is between me and you, we have no idea. God is the ultimate judge, and He knows what a person needs to go through in order to achieve perfection. Right? Everyone goes through struggles, have trouble with work, some have trouble with intelligence, with whatever it is. But everyone can overcome the struggles and win at their level. Doesn't mean there's no. It's personal perfection, not some universal perfection. Everyone can reach their own level of perfection.
When does it end?
We
Oh,
die.
Olam Hazeh. That's the whole point. Olam Hazeh, that's it. After Olam Hazeh, boop, done. The neshama leaves the body. No more bechira, no more free will. It's all done.
So how many times do we have to
Wait,
come back?
who's-
Oh my God, you're back in reincarnation. We're going to get to reincarnation. Don't worry, we're going to get there, Shani. You've been here before, Shani. Trust me. It's not your first time here.
We lose free will when we die?
Yes, there's no free will in Olam Haba. We'll get there. It can't be. Free will cannot exist in that world. By definition, it doesn't work. It does not work. The Ramban says it will disappear completely. It's hard for us to even fathom because the whole idea of this world is free will. When we get to Yom Mashiach, we'll see the Ramban and others say free will no longer exist.
So we lose
It will be natural will. We'll move from free will to natural will, whatever that means.
Natural is just going like, is that not like doing the things that like you're supposed to be doing?
It'll be so obvious we won't even have to struggle. It'll just be doing the right thing. We'll get there. Hold on, we're not there yet. We're jumping to a future. We're jumping a few thousand years. So hold on. Hold on. I don't know what's going to look like. Something interesting is going to happen. Okay. So that's what he says. Let's finish this off. He says, so therefore, the elements you need for success are here, and the period of earning reward, right, must therefore be one where maximum challenge exists. That's Olam Hazeh. And the spiritual and physical are in constant milchama. Right? Constant milchama. There has to be a constant battle within ourselves, constantly struggling with. Right? Anybody here struggling?
No.
If you're not struggling, you're not alive. I know I am. Constantly. However, he says, V'zman kibul schar, but this Olam Haba time, he says, second paragraph, Hine roi lo shiyah matzav hofki lezeh, is the complete opposite. These two worlds have absolutely nothing in common. One leads to the other, but really they're complete opposites. What you experience here is nothing like you're going to experience over here. We'll see when we get to Olam Haba, I mean in this course, not ultimately, right? We'll see that even the rabbis couldn't even describe it. They can only tell you what it's not what it is. Right? We'll tell you, there's no business there, there's no jealousy there, there's no war over there. They always describe it as what it isn't, not what it is. Because it's so difficult to even describe with our physical words that physical words don't suffice to describe it. Right? It's completely different. The future world has no similarity to this world. The more the physical world prevails, he says, the more it would darken. The more the physical world prevails, the more it would darken a person's neshama, soul, and prevent him from being close to God. He's saying this world is all about absolute connection to God in an absolute spiritual way. Therefore, the body cannot have any control over the soul over here, because it would act as a barrier to that closeness to God. It wouldn't work. There has to be a complete different world over there, where the physical is not blocking the spiritual. Okay? Therefore, that world is a different creation. In that world, the neshama gets to shine through. V'chomer, and the physical is going to follow it. Legamre. It says something really big, by the way. There will be a guf in Olam Haba, in the future world. There will be a body. You're not going to be just a soul floating around in your pajamas, right? There is a body. However, it's going to be subservient to the soul's desire. In this world, the soul is subservient to the body. In that world, the body is subservient to the soul. I have no idea what that means. That's what he's saying. And by the way, I think we mentioned this last class, I believe, but I'll go into a little bit more. These two worlds were not an afterthought. The world was created with these two worlds set up. It's part of the original plan. Does anyone know a hint in the first verse of the Bible, of the Torah, to these two worlds being set up? You probably have heard this before somewhere in your Hebrew school, Jewish day school, yeshiva, torture periods of your life. Before that. What is the first letter of the Bible? The Torah. Bet. Bet. What is bet? 2. You would have thought the Torah would begin with the letter Aleph. But the Gemara says no. The Midrash says no. We begin with the letter bet. 2. Why 2? Because there are two worlds. When God created, says Rashi, the world, he didn't just create the physical world, he created the physical and the spiritual world. Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. So encoded into creation, meaning what's the first? Why is this bet? There's plenty of bets, right? Bases right through the Torah. The first one is there because the whole creation of the world, where everything comes from, starts from here. It all encapsulates the idea of Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. It was set up this way. The whole game was set up with Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. The Olam Hazeh would be limited, and Olam Haba would be eternal. That's how the world was created. Interestingly, the Midrash says that's why the bet is used as a parentheses. Right? So creation starts from here. What came before the world, before Olam Hazeh, we don't know. We don't know. It's too much for our finite minds to figure out, and therefore the letter bet is like a bracket, and we only know from creation onwards. Pre-creation, you can think about it, but your brain starts to hurt. You ever did that before? Think about it. You ever done that before? And you're like lying in bed. You're like, so what was there before the world? And your brain starts to turn to guacamole, ooze out of your ear. You ever have that before? You ever have that? Do you ever think about next world? How eternity? You ever think of? I lie in bed freaking out about that. Right? You know what I'm saying? As a kid, I'd be like, 1 second. Where was I before the world was? What was? You ever get that? I do. I think the analogy I like to use for that is trying to think of a different color. That's what one of my teachers said to me. You ever you ever had one before? Try to think of a different color. You can't, right? Because you only...
Like a new color.
And you think of a new color. It doesn't exist. It's like we're not able to do it, right? It's like, I mean, maybe someone can, but it's very, very difficult to fathom. That's Olam Hazeh. We can't even fathom Olam Haba. We can consider the idea that it could be, but trying to think of a different color is like trying to think of the world before the next world. We're stuck in Olam Hazeh. We are in a finite, limited world. An Olam Haba.
No, I meant okay, so find the opposite.
Yes.
Sorry. Are we saying that it's even lower? Like, how can it be that the soul is lower?
It's not lower, but there's a struggle here, and the soul is struggling to control that guf. The rider is struggling to control that horse. So, you know what I'm talking about, right? Dealing with it? Yeah.
Is it believed that in Olam Haba, like, we'll still need to eat or drink or
That's interesting. That is the exact words of Rav. He says, Olam Haba. There'll be no eating, there'll be no drinking. Whether these are metaphors, what that actually means. That means we have to struggle to eat, right? Or there won't be any struggle to make a living anymore. It's all going to just be there. And we'll see Midrashim that says that food will appear on trees in its complete state, whether it's taken literally or metaphorically, we'll see. But it's going to change.
What's that?
There'll be a synthesis between body and soul. If you will, here, follow this. Follow this. Creation is the thesis. Olam Hazeh is the antithesis. Olam Haba is the synthesis. We have thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Alright?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure.
Olam Haba.
Creation, if you will, the thesis was set up over here. The beginning of creation. Here's the thesis. This is what's going to be. Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba. Olam Hazeh is the battle. That's the antithesis. That's a constant fight. And then we reach a third point. So there's three phases we're describing over here. Is Olam Haba. And that's what all comes together. That's Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That's the real struggle. That's the battle that we'll be struggling with. Oof, my brain is full. I don't know about you.
So Olam Haba is not yet created?
It is created. It's there. Absolutely. It's waiting. It was created from the day of creation. Olam Haba was created.
So now when we die, where are we going?
Olam and Neshamot, also referred to as Gan Eden. That is a holding station till Olam Haba.
We want to get to the Gan Eden. We don't want to get
Gan Eden actually it's a technical term, as referring to also where Adam and Chava came from, is a technical term for Olam and Neshamot, where the soul goes to after a person dies, and where a soul exists before a person is born. It's called the Guf actually, the Olam and Neshamot. That's how the Ramban, as we'll see inside, describes this holding station until Olam Haba, which will take place. Olam Haba, which will take place in Olam Hazeh. That makes sense?
But we ultimately want to get to heaven. We don't want to stay here.
Okay, heaven is not a Jewish God. We're going to use Olam Haba, because heaven is like conjures up ideas of flying babies playing harps, right? Shooting bows and arrows, floating on clouds. We're going to change that whole narrative and give us a very, very difficult one, a different one, very different one. Okay. Says the Ramchal, page 6, halfway down. Please follow. V'amnam al ken nivrusha. Therefore, God created two worlds, Olam Hazeh v'Olam Haba. He put down abbreviations, but that's what they mean. Can you see it in the third paragraph? Olam Hazeh v'Olam Haba. Olam Hazeh makom. Olam Hazeh is the place. V'achukim ha'tvim. That is where the system is set up. Chukim, the laws, the structure. Hatvim, and the natural realm. Shalohem mashrui la'adam kozma shtadlato, which is going to help you achieve through your efforts. V'olam haba is the makom, is the place. V'chukim, and the system is set up over there. Shalom and mashrui la'ad v'zman kibul schar, to help you achieve reward. So both worlds are set up perfectly for work, effort, and for reward. Okay, avodah kibul schar. Are we clear? Nice and easy. Can we move on? It wasn't always this way. It wasn't always this way. The world was created in a slightly different way, where we were put, why is a very, 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 very big question, into a place called Gan Eden. Now at this point, Gan Eden is going to refer to a physical location where Adam and Chava lived. And if you remember from last class, this is going to be the beginning point of our course and where we're eventually going to end up in.
Is that like the time when there was like no free will and no struggle?
Right, sounds familiar, right? No free will. We're seeing the circle now a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. There must have been some free will because they chose bad. There must have been something going on. Otherwise, they would never have chosen bad. There was an element of free will that was over there. But the level of the spiritual over the physical was much greater. There must have been some free will. Otherwise, how would they have chosen to sin, as we're about to see? Now, it says, there's something else you need to know, says the Ramchal. Maybe it says that, probably worth knowing it, Nachon. What's that? Humanity. You see, the way we started, and what you saw, wasn't always like this. We're on page 6, the penultimate paragraph. What does penultimate mean? One before the end. One before the last. Penultimate. It's a good word, that. You learn Hebrew with me, Shani. You learn English with me. You're welcome. He says, what we see now is not the way it always was. It wasn't always this way. How was it? Ki ulam shinui gadol hayaba. There was a big shinui. There was a big change. There was a big radical change that happened. What is this? V'hu inyan cheto shel Adam harishon. This is the sin of Adam. The sin of Adam was a watershed and a change. So it really always, what you see around you today is not the way as we understand creation started. It wasn't always like this. And he's going to explain. V'hu in cheto harishon shenishtane bo Adam, because mankind changed, v'olam, and the world changed, mima shayu b'tchila, from how it started. The world went through a big change, and plan A turned into plan B. Plan A was Gan Eden. Plan B began with Adam and Chava sinned, the famous sin of the Garden of Eden, and they were kicked out. He says, Olam Hazeh changed in a very radical way. V'olam, pratei shinu hazeh, the implications and the details of this great change, v'toldoteim rabim, are many. I can't even list them. There's such a major change that I can't even list how different the world is now to how it was in Gan Eden. Va'od, l'daber ba lefanim, siyat Shema. We'll talk more about this. V'nimsa, shadibur b'min ha'nshui, v'havchana b'nesui, right? V'sonav k'fulim, right? Everything we see, when we talk and speak of man and his environment, we must discuss this change. You're not going to figure out what happened without discussing it. Ki, because there is life before the sin, and there is life after the sin. And something was introduced before and after. Does everyone know the biggest change that happened before the Chet of Adam Rishon and after the Chet of Adam Rishon? Before the sin and after the sin. What was the main change? I know. Beforehand, we were only buying wholesale. Now we have to buy retail. There's more. That's a big change, especially for us Jewish people. But there's more. Anyone know what that big change entailed?
Well, two things: mortality or like avodah, like having to work.
Mortality. Mortality. Death was introduced. The idea of death was not part of Plan A. It was part of Plan B. Now, we don't understand that because death is part and parcel of Olam Hazeh. He's like, but there was a world when there was no death. It's hard for us to even fathom that because we live in a world where everything deteriorates, everything worsens, and everything dies. All that lives eventually dies. He says it wasn't always that way. That's part of the big, big change. Let's just follow inside. Sorry if you don't mind. Okay? He says, when Adam Rishon was first formed, when he was first created, Hine Adam Rishon be'etz yisirato, haya mamash ba'otam matzav sheschon al arazeh. He was precisely the state we've discussed up to now. He had two opposites. He was made up of body and soul. Adam Rishon was physical, right, and spiritual, right. Everything around him, there was good and bad. There was tov v'ra. Had to be, because it was still Olam Hazeh. Olam Hazeh must contain good and bad. Or if it doesn't, it's not Olam Hazeh. However, he was balanced between the two, and he could choose one from the other. Adam had bad and good, but it was a lot more visible. And the metaphor that is used to describe that, the analogy, is the nachash, the snake. And the snake, by the way, this whole story of Maaseh Bereshis is the most difficult chapter of the entire Torah. It's put into metaphor, into analogy of snakes and gardens. Okay? Whether it was a real snake or a real garden, we don't really care. Right? It's not really what we're about. Trying to understand what it was like. But one thing we know is that the Yetzer Hara, represented by the Nachash, the snake, was outside. He could see it. He could see it. It was outside. It existed, but it was outside of him. We'll see absolutely. Everything was black and white. He knew right from wrong. There was wrong, and he could choose between it, but it was outside. However, when he got to after the sin, the snake was internalized, and it became much more difficult to figure out right from wrong. And that's the world we're living in. Nachon? It's hard for us to know, is that right? Is that wrong? Is that good? Is it bad? So beforehand he says, everything was balanced. You could really see it was external, right? And he could have chosen. And he says, the right thing for him to do, and he could have done the most appropriate thing to have done, would have chosen the good. Right? He could have chosen the good. It was very clear. This is the good. This is Gan Eden. All this you can eat from. That's the first command. The first command given to Adam Rishon was actually, you can eat of all the fruits in Gan Eden, all the pleasure of this world, but don't choose and eat from the Eitz Hadat, right? The tree of Tov Ra. That was excluded from you. If you do that, you're out. What that's all about, we'll leave aside. It's a much bigger and deeper discussion. But even on a surface level, all of it's good, but there is some bad. This world, by definition, Olam Hazeh, must contain elements of Ra, or it's not Olam Hazeh. It can't only exist of good. By definition, Olam Hazeh must have elements of Ra. But it was easier for him to choose the good. However, had he done so, had he only chosen good, what would the world have been like? Which it isn't.
Very different.
It would have been really good, yeah. He should have chosen the good. Had he done that, his soul would have been strong and elevated, al guf over his body, the spiritual would have won over the physical. He would have been completely fixed up, and he would have had eternal goodness forever. So there was free will. However, the free will, as we're being told, was different. It was much clearer and easier, but there must have been choice, right? Because Adam Rishon is humanity. But it was much clearer what was good, what was bad. Had he chosen the good, everything would have been great. He chose bad. Now, the big question, which is probably one of the biggest questions of Jewish, one second, my darling, of Jewish history is, why did he choose bad? That is the famous question. There are many, many answers to this question. I'll just give you one, which is given a number of places, which is not so necessary for this course, but is worth knowing, because we're told he did not want the bread of shame. You see, if you're given something in this world, it's much not as good as achieving it. That's the nature of Olam Hazeh. And therefore, he deliberately chose bad in order to choose and work for the good. So that Olam Haba would have been much better.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
I know.
He chose
I know.
bad to make our lives much harder so he could work for good.
So that we have to work in order to earn the good.
That sounds like something you'd say when you make such a catastrophic mistake. You're like, well, you know, like I did it on purpose so we could work harder.
You happen to be correct. The answer is not as good as the question, but that's the answer given.
What's more rewarding? Taking a class where the professor is super easy and everybody gets an A.
How'd you
Or
go?
taking a class like where the material is super hard, the professor is super hard.
Or go.
Or it's very hard. You get an A.
What would you rather take? Or my hand?
That's a good question. You know, that's a great question. Let's say I said, you know what? No more class the rest of the semester. You don't have to study. You don't have to listen to this English guy drone on. A's for everyone. Good or bad?
No, that'd be annoying, but there's a difference.
No, it won't be annoying. But would you feel good at the end of the semester? Oh, you probably would actually. Not a good
I
answer,
would.
right? But would you? The feeling. One thing that would be missing.
Rewarded.
The accomplishment would be removed.
Yeah.
You'd be happy, but you'd be missing on some accomplishment. So, honey, I paid for you to go to YU, to Stone College. It cost me thousands of dollars. How was it? I got an A, really? Easy course? Yeah, I didn't turn up. They just gave me an A. I mean, that's not right. It just doesn't sound right. Feels good, doesn't sound right.
But
Maybe this course is a perfect analogy for Olam
then
Hazeh, Olam Haba. Who knows?
don't take the course.
You got no choice.
fine, take the course, learn what you can. Would you like a little plug on
Yeah,
it?
well
It's
done.
terrible.
Yes, go on.
Take the class, learn what you can, pick up what you can, but don't make it so that everyone else in
There
Stern
has to
College for
be
Women
a struggle.
has to take
Gabby,
over.
there has to be a struggle. If there's no
Why?
struggle, then the A doesn't mean anything. And you graduate with Stern. If every class, if you don't have to Stern, they're like, you know what? Go home, come back in 4 years, we'll give you a certificate. You're like, okay, I feel good, but first you didn't learn anything. You didn't improve your soul. You didn't improve your intelligence. You got to give an A. Part of Olam Hazeh, no, the whole point of Olam Hazeh after the sin was hard work and effort.
Right, but that's a choice that you can make for yourself. Don't make everyone else in this school have to work for the A.
I hear.
Like, you
Yes.
compare it to something like a little less like school, because I feel like school everyone just wants me to, yeah. Like when you compare it to like an Olympian, like someone who trains their whole entire life and then gets gold medal, like that reward is like so much
Right.
greater to someone who just decided the day of the Olympics, like, oh, I'm just gonna do it, like, oh my god.
Turns up, gets up on the podium, gets the gold medal, and everyone else works hard for it. Very, very good. There's only one slight, because I like the Olympian analogy very much, there's only one struggle. There isn't one winner. It's not a battle against other people, it's a battle against yourself, against your personal best, your PB. So it's a great analogy, and I appreciate it, but really that would assume we're all fighting against each other, right? But there is no curve in Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba, as you like to say in this school. Your struggle against your own personal best. So you're right, that's a great analogy, but it only takes you so far, yeah.
I mean, I wasn't thinking about this from Adam's point of view, but from God's point of view, this whole thing is very counterproductive. If He wanted us to do well and He wants us to do great, and then the easiest world that we had, we still failed, and then He's going to make it harder, yet it's set up, like, that doesn't make any sense.
It's tough, right? You know, this question is actually asked in the Gemara. The rabbis say, what is it better that God created the world or not created the world? Had a big discussion. Is it better that God created the world or not? And you know the funny answer they come to after a long discussion? Better that Hashem had not created the world. We would have done better.
But what
And
was
yet
the
God
plan?
decided in His great wisdom to create the world. So we assume that's the right way to go. From our perspective though, interesting, the rabbis actually said, it doesn't make sense. So much struggle. Better that God didn't create the world. It's a real discussion in the Gemara, and that's the conclusion they come to.
Wait,
So,
what
happy
would
with
he
you.
have been had he not created the world?
I don't know. We don't understand. We cannot fathom
You're
the
breaking
world.
my
It's too much.
brain.
Yes. Just let's finish off. Actually, he's going to write down if Adam and Rishon had not sinned. We're going to see that in a second. Let's just do one more paragraph. Sarah Shatedi, you should also know one last thing. Sha'afal pi she'en anu margishim l'shama. Although we don't feel the soul, we don't feel this neshama of which we speak, we don't actually feel it. The guf inside the body. However, it gives us, the soul provides us with something. Although you can't feel it, you know it's there. Say that again. You cannot feel the soul inside the body, but we know it's there because it provides us, write this down, this is the kind of question that will be in your midterm. It provides us with the ability to live with life and to think. Proof of the neshama is the fact that we are alive, because the body itself is not alive except it has the neshama, and it gives us the ability to think, which is actually one of the reasons the neshama is located in the moach, in the brain. The ability to think is proof of the soul. That's a very deep statement. I think, therefore I am, is rooted in the words of the Ramchal. Proof of the neshama. You can't feel it, you can't smell it, you can't touch it, but the fact that you're alive and the fact your ability to think is proof, he says, of the neshama. That's why he says, be'emet, in truth, yesh b'choka, shetasech etzem aguf v'chumro. And it's necessary to realize that the soul has another function besides living and giving us life, ability to think, helps us to purify the human body. That is the purpose of the soul. How we do that, we don't know yet. We don't know that yet. We're going to discuss. There is a system, as we're going to see, right, through mitzvah, as we shall see, that helps the soul purify the body. However, once it does this, v'ta'aleh, ilui achar ilui, therefore by doing this, the soul lifts up and has the power to elevate the body up step by step, ad shi'ru'i etalot ima ana'av shlemot, until the body, even the body, can derive pleasure from perfection along with the soul, which will occur in Olam Haba and occurs in a very small level even on Shabbat, where the body and soul work together in tandem, where you're eating and the physical is lifted and brings up the neshama with it. That is the metaphor we will use many times during the semester when we describe body and soul and the Olam Haba. We shall stop over there. Fabulous class, we did a lot. We'll pick this up, God willing, on Thursday.